Travis Wayne Goodsell. Because I was born and raised in the covenant in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I became an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. As far as I know, I'm the only one in the world. And I've made some decipherments, which led to making numerous discoveries. And some of the discoveries involve identifying the origin of Scripture from the Egyptian documents. And as such, I've been able to make other discoveries concerning the latter days. Joseph Smith informs us that the name of our Christ is Emmanuel. And in the language of the Egyptians, that is the Egyptian sun god at noonday. So go back to your 1838 Joseph Smith history. The two personages are described as what? And then the messenger to Joseph Smith. And if you are good little Mormon boys and girls, you went to your Joseph Smith papers to find out that it was Nephi, not Moroni, who appeared to Joseph Smith. And because of my research, I'm able to identify that section 27 of the Doctrine and Covenants, verse 5, is incorrect. It's supposed to be Nephi. There are multiple reasons, and I've done the videos. And so, don't believe me at your own risk. Ignore me at your own risk. And by saying that, we're going to have Mormons that are going to be bleep bleeps. We're going to say, fine, I'm out of here. Taking too long to get to the conclusion. Show your sources. I had a loser. Dear God. Everybody makes excuses not to want to listen, not to want to hearken. In verse 40 of the second vision of Nephi, described as Emmanuel, who is also described as a messenger, Malachi, we are told exactly who our Christ is. He is a man like Moses. And so section 107, verse 91, tells us that Joseph Smith is our founding Christ, to be like unto Moses. That's the Jewish Christ. That's what Joseph Smith is referring to in verse 40 of the Joseph Smith history. And so, yeah, it's not Jesus, is it? Verse 19 tells you who or what Jesus or Joseph Smith thought about Jesus. And so, with that way too long introduction, because it's necessary, because if I were to just go right into the scripture, I would inevitably get a whole bunch of hate comments and ignorance spewed back at me. You're wrong! Sources! The church is true! Mormons hear what they want to hear to support their faith bubble. And so we're going to go over Samson. It's a latter-day prophecy. It's not literal history. And as I go over it, all of your jaws will be dropping. Because there's more than what I've shared with you already in all these years of videos. Because I've not gone over it specifically. So, I will not be going over the Hebrew text, because there are some further light and knowledge that I promise to send you if you make it to Zion with me. So hold me to it. We just have less than a year to go, but we have to survive the day that shall burn as an oven. And there's also some mistranslations. And so I understand that as we go over this, that there is more information, such as the universal symbol of the sun, that is in a whole bunch of words, which makes for some eye-opening inspiration and understanding of what the text is talking about. Because they do not define Samson. We'll get to that. So, section 103, verse 17. I did the video that nobody wants to watch about how to decipher all of scriptural prophecy. Emmanuel is Samson. I'll get into more specifics on that, at least for you. Children of Israel, Mormons. There's going to be a bombshell in here. Watch. And so there's the great and abominable church. That's the Philistines. Mormons did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And did evil in sight. All have that universal symbol of the sun in their words. And it's not quite translated correctly. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. So, section 103, get out your decoder ring. Mormons are going to be in bondage to the great and abominable church. Okay? Simple enough? And there was a certain man of Zorah, it's the throne symbol, and Ra, the Egyptian sun god. Emmanuel is the sun god at noonday. Ra is the actual sun for the whole day. There is a difference. And so this is Ra. That's also the word in evil, which is incorrectly translated because the N is technically with the spelling for evil. That's why this is mistranslated here. Of the family of the, wait for it, Mormons, Danites. They prophesied that the Mormons would be in bondage to the great and abominable church of the Danites. Awesome. There's more bombshells here, guys. This could end up going an hour long. Are you sure you're gonna still hang around? This is just awesomely amazing. And we just started. And whose name was Manoah. And if you're thinking, Noah, that's the same word as Noah, you'd be correct from the Hebrew. They are the same name. And so it has a prefix determinative, M, for high priest in Paleo-Hebrew. So Noah, the high priest. That's the man's name of the Danites in the great and abominable church. And so Matthew tells us that the story of Noah with the flood is prophecy of the latter days. As in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the latter days. He tells us the story of Noah is not literal history. Quit trying to hike up in the mountains of Turkey looking for an ark. It is a prophecy of the latter days. Okay? And so here we have setting up of prophecy. And using Joseph Smith's decoder ring. Isn't this awesome? His wife was barren. What do you mean barren? She immaculately conceives? That's exactly what they're saying. And bear not. So this isn't going to be his real parents. His father's name is not Manoah. His wife is not barren and immaculately conceives him. There's other factors that are involved. For example, in the Egyptian 18th dynasty of the David Moseses, David Moseses, you're missing out on not watching to the end of my videos. The priesthood was named the priesthood of Ammon. Section 107, right there at the beginning. Ta-da! Melchizedek is the fuller name of the abbreviation of Ammon. Ammon, it starts with the universal symbol of the sun, the M, high priest, N, king. Melchizedek, Melech, king, Zadok, high priest. Ammon, high priest after the holy order of Ammon. And so an angel of the Lord, Malachi, appears to the woman, exactly like Jesus, which is again a prophecy of Emmanuel. Matthew chapter 1, right there near the end, tells us this. He quotes Isaiah of the name and then says, so he named him Jesus. It's because it's not literal history. Verse 19. It's the Christ of the great and abominable church of the Danites. And so you again have here the prophecy that Emmanuel, the Mormon, section 103. Have you not been following me? Did you not look it up? The man like Moses is a Mormon, and his name is Emmanuel. Everybody prophesies of it, and Joseph Smith said he's going to be a Mormon in the great and abominable church of the Danites. And so Malachi appears to the woman. thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Emmanuel. There's Isaiah. The date is from Revelation chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 5. We know that 5 is included because the Joseph Smith translation moves verse 5 to verse 3. And they moved it to verse 3 because the Book of Mormon, right there at the very beginning, Lehi's second vision. The heavens were opened. He has a dream. He sees a sign in the heavens. God sitting on his throne. That's verse 5. That's part of the sign. Emmanuel is the child that is born with 12 other stars in the constellation of Leo. 23rd September 2017. That's the start of the latter days. And so the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, king of Judah, 2017. There will be a president of the United States of America put on the throne by Babylon, a foreign government. Huh. And yet I still get dumbasses who come to my channel and say Trump is the man like Moses. Oh dear God. Talk about your Kool-Aid drinkers. It's like they know he's the beast of Revelation 13. And yet, and so, it's also a prophecy of which Danite great and abominable church temple his parents will be sealed in. Temple of Angels. Angel of the Lord, because it's abstinence only. You cannot have children until you're sealed in the temple. Even though Nelson's changed it in 2019. But that was another video nobody wanted to watch. Alright, and so then he's being called a Nazarite, and there's some mistranslation in there. And here we have the man like Moses. He shall deliver, it says begin to deliver, Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. A man like Moses. Exodus. Getting to Zion. And so the woman told her husband, a man of God came unto me, and his countenance was the countenance of an angel of God. Joseph Smith uses Jupiter in Joseph Smith history for Malachi the messenger. Emmanuel. I had that video for you. I wasn't sure if that would be too complicated for you or not. But Jupiter is Emmanuel. You have to go through Zeus, which is also Yah. And so it's Yah Peter. That's Jupiter. Because it's not the J. It's Yah. Yah Peter. The Hebrew god. Seer. Peter. Egyptian. That's the simple way to explain it to you. I could go over each letter for you as well. Go over the vocabulary of the meaning. But we're talking about Samson. But I asked him not where he was, whence he was, neither told me his name. It's Nephi. Because Lehi's second vision is exactly the same as Joseph Smith's second vision. Joseph Smith also is giving us the same information here by referencing them as the same. So even though Joseph Smith does not put in the sign in the heavens, he is by going over the exact same details. Emmanuel gives him a Book of Mormon warning of the latter days and talking about the Christ, who is Emmanuel, man like Moses. And the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb to the day of his death, which means that no razor shall touch his head. So yes, he will have long hair at some point in his life. When he's in prison, that has to do with the whole cutting of his hair thing, because he's betrayed by the woman who cut his hair, his second wife, which there is some mix-up there. But that's where my specialty and exclusivity allows me to share that with you. We'll get to it. It's going to be late at night when this gets put up, isn't it? And so Manoah prays to the Lord, O Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again unto us, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. And so God hearkened, and the angel of God came unto the woman, and she sat in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. Uh-oh. She's cheating on him. That's not what it means. They have to tell the story with the symbolisms, and it just comes out that way. Because the 18th dynasty, I don't think I covered this, did I? I got sidetracked. The 18th dynasty, David Moses's, Ammon priesthood, Hatshepsut, the queen pharaoh, who's standing behind Abraham in facsimile number 3. Why everybody misses this is beyond me. She appealed to the priests of Ammon, the leadership of the church, under Pharaoh, of course, but Pharaoh, David Moses II, had died, and David Moses III was not old enough to take the throne. So Hatshepsut came to the Ammon priesthood and said, in the premortal council of heaven, this was already planned and determined, that I was to reign as Pharaoh until my son David Moses III is old enough to take over the throne. Then she went and said, they also foreordained that her birth was a result of Heavenly Father Ammon, who came down from outer space and impregnated the queen. The pharaoh was considered the earthly Ammon, so thus it wasn't real. It was the father, Ammon, on earth, the pharaoh, who went in unto the queen to give birth to Hatshepsut. But she's telling the story to try to justify making her the queen until her son is old enough to keep the dynasty going. And the priests of Ammon were okay with this, and she became pharaoh. And so this is what you see in the scriptures, that the name of the Father also is Emmanuel. That's the surname. Son God. And so the Son God is the one who is married, sealed in the temple of the Danites, the temple of angels. Hey, there's a Los Angeles temple. That's why he's a fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you saw that video, which I think are only one or two of you. And so, let's see. So again, she goes and tells her husband, I cheated on you. Oh! The woman made haste and ran, and shewed her husband, and said unto him, Behold, the man hath appeared unto me, that came unto me the other day. And Manoah arose, and went after his wife, and came to the man, and said unto him, Art thou the man that speakest unto the woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, Now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child? So you see, Abraham twice, and then Isaac had wives that were barren as well. It's the same pattern here. And so the same with Mary being immaculately conceived. Malachi says unto Manoah, Of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware. She may not eat of anything that cometh of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. And that's why this is placed after Moses by the Jews in 800 to 1000 CE, is because of this. How do they explain unclean thing if we don't have the learning of the law of Moses prior to this? And so Manoah says unto the angel, Let us detain thee. You are our hostage. We're taking you prisoner. And they're going to feed him a goat. And though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread. And if thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. And Manoah didn't realize he was Malachi. Which is a tell, because if this is an angel from outer space, then we know the time period of when this was written. But I'm not seeing any indication of that, and thus it would be a messenger similar to those that appear to Abraham and then to Lot. They're messengers, Malachi's. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, What is thy name? So this is the hidden name. This is Amen. In Egyptian, it's known as the hidden name. And so those who learn the hidden name, like Hathor, get his powers. And she got his powers and turned into a drunken cow and went on a murder spree of mankind. Which is a symbolism of the latter days, but still pretty funny. Don't have a cow. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Why askest thou thus after my name, seeing it is a sacred? Emmanuel. That's the name of their son. So they're telling us the name of Emmanuel. It's just in a different form than the author of Genesis, who gives the name and then defines it in the context of giving the name. And so the story here is revealing the meaning of Samson. And Manoah took the goat with a meat offering and offered it upon the rock unto the Lord. And the angel did wondrously, and Manoah and his wife looked on. And the flame went up toward heaven. Flame, fire. Sun god, fire. An altar. Death. Ascension to the throne. All these are symbolic as part of the ritual. That the angel of the Lord ascended into the flame of the altar. Ta-da! And so, yeah, you do see a Roman period influence here. And Manoah and his wife looked on it, and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear. Then he knew he was an angel of the Lord. I won't believe it unless you miraculously defy the laws of physics. I will not believe the laws of physics, but I will believe supernatural events. Manoah said unto his wife, we shall surely die, because we have seen God. And so, yeah, if you look at the sun, you'll go blind. If you look at porn, you'll die. And apparently he was wearing a transparent robe so that you could see that he was a male, just as Joseph Smith described him. If any of you are familiar with the videos where I cover Holland, saying that porn is like getting COVID. You could die. So she then says, if the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and a meal offering at our hands. And so it was actually the angel of the Lord who was Emmanuel, but now she's saying just the Lord. But that's what the offerings were, is an offering to the Lord. And the priests who officiated were the ones who were in the position of the messenger here. So that's what they're describing here, is the ritual performance of sacrifices in the temple, anciently and classically. And so then she bears a son, immaculately. Because, yeah, we get right into 2017, right at the very beginning. And so they called his name Samson, and the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. Shemesh, S-M-S, is the word in Hebrew for son. But if you were to Google search the baby name meaning, they say child of the sun, or son-child. No. The N is a suffix determinative in Paleo-Hebrew for king. Remember Melchizedek? Amen? The Sun King, who is King Emmanuel, the Sun God. And so the story then is about the Sun King, Emmanuel. The sun at noonday. Sacrifices are about deaths, which are symbolized as solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, but that's the left eye. The right eye is the sun for government, religion for the left. And so as we go through, we will see deaths. Those are solar eclipses that they are prophesying for us. And as the pattern of all scriptures, 2017 is the first year of the latter days. In all of the scripture prophecies, that's the first year. That's the birth of the latter days. So here we have the birth. And so we should therefore expect, knowing the learning of the Jews' manner of prophesying of the latter day revelation, to find a solar eclipse, a death for the year 2017. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Chapter 14. And Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Danites, the Philistines, great and abominable church. He's in the great and abominable church. And it came to pass, he told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath. I've gone blind. I'm going to die. The daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get me her to wife. They're using the cultural practice of arranged marriages. Then his father and his mother said unto him, and you do have to get permission from the first presidency to be sealed in the temple. So, yeah, that fits. Then his father and mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of the Danites? It's the same, Mom. Or among all my people. His mother will have the Danite genealogy. Just a little extra insight for you, as she's the one who responds here. Her name being Judith, or derivations of the name. And I went over that when I went over Jacob and Esau. Esau's wife, after he lost the birthright and the blessing, was Judith. Goes to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines. Now, all Mormons, for the most part, aren't they? Aren't we all circumcised at 8 days old? I know I am. And Samson said unto his father, get her, or I'm circumcised. Yeah. You understood, right? Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. But his father and mother knew not that it was of the Lord. He's supposed to marry of the great and abominable church, that he sought an occasion against the Philistines. For at that time, the Philistines had dominion over Mormons, great and abominable church of the Danites. And so, yeah, he marries the woman for the purpose of freeing Mormons from the great and abominable church. And then Samson went down, and his father and his mother to Timnath came to the vineyards of Timnath. Behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done. Death number 1. Is it 2017? How do we know? It gives us the day and the hour and where on earth it is supposed to occur. Anybody remember 21st of August 2017? Yeah, it was in Leo. Guess where it was next to? Regis, the star, the king star. In Leo, the lion. Yeah, that's cool. And so, yes, it was President Monson's birthday. And the ancient Egyptian religious calendar New Year. And in the Egyptian documents, that's when Horus, who goes back to restore the throne, the beginning of the latter days, loses his eye, right eye, the sun, for government. Regis, eclipse. They knew. And they're telling us this. And so he went down, talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. Everybody's having fun but me. If you've seen other videos, you know what I'm talking about. Because we're now going to see where he was sealed in the temple. And after a time, he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. The wedding feast at the lion house, next to the beehive house. Salt Lake Temple of the Danites. Room number 13, by the way. So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast. For so used the young men to do. This is the wedding practice. An 8-day wedding feast. 8 years, latter days. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If you can certainly declare it me within 7 days of the feast, in other words, by the 8th day, and find it out, then I will give you 30 pieces of silver, 30 sheets, and 30 change of magic underwear. I had found that I still had my temple robes, and I had them thrown away yesterday. I was doing some more deep cleaning of what survived. But if you cannot declare it me, then ye shall give me 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. And they said unto him, Put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it. We take your bet. I'd bet my life on iocane powder. He said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. Now, that would be 2020, wouldn't it? That was the year of the Exodus. Not a single Mormon went, because nobody believed and hearkened. And it came to pass on the 7th day, that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy husband's house with fire. Have ye called us to take that we have? Is it not so? Samson's wife wept. Why do you hate me? What are you talking about? I married you. Are we out of ice cream? And lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people, and hast not told it to me. Yeah, she betrays him. Now, this isn't Delilah. Delilah is still to come, but she's the second wife, which is the second wife, and they're the same, which is, yeah, because of the prophecy. But yes, he has 2 failed marriages. That prophecy is a pattern in many prophecy scriptures. And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father nor my mother, and shall I tell it thee? I'm your wife, and after what I've just heard, I'm not sure I want to be that anymore. And she wept before him the 7 days, while their feast lasted. He just married her, already getting grief. She's already betrayed him, choosing the Danites, just like a Mormon. And it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. She's a narc. And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, If ye have not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle. She's cheating on him. And yeah, both. And the Spirit of the Lord came unto him, and he went down to Ashkelon, and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garments unto them which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. That is a death. That was a solar eclipse, but that's not the one over the United States of America. Because there's other eclipses during this latter day time period as well. This is just one of those. And he went up to his father's house. Samson's wife was given to someone else, whom he had it used to be his friend. But it came to pass within a while after, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid, and he said, I will go in to my wife into the chamber. And it's unclear because it depends on which wife of the two failed marriages we're talking about. If it's the first wife, it's his kid. If it's the second wife, it's her kid. Wife chamber, but the father rejected him from doing that. So fulfilled. And her father said, I verily thought that thou hast utterly hated her, therefore I gave her to thy companion. It's a fellow Mormon. She remarried. Had a previous marriage or a second marriage, depending on which wife, in the temple. Is not her younger sister fairer than she is? Yeah. But I was kind of engaged. Couldn't just say, oh, she's your sister, huh? I guess our wedding's off. I want her. That would not go over well, especially with her father. She went to Taiwan on her mission, by the way. And Samson said concerning them, now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure. And Samson went. Here we go again. Another solar eclipse. This one was earlier this year and involved his brother the fox, as well as Fox 13 or Fox News as well. Because the great and abominable church forced his brother the fox to silence him and punish him financially to destroy him. But, as we read, he caught 300 foxes and took firebrands and turned tail to tail, Pisces, and put a firebrand in the midst between the two tails, and he set the brands on fire. He let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines and burnt up both the shocks. Yeah. He was able to use his brother, the fox, baby name meaning, Fox and the Hound, and turn it on to the church. Because he exposed that the church had threatened his job, his career, and reputation and finances if he didn't attack his brother to protect the church. And so Samson was able to then use that against the church. And the case was withdrawn rather than pursuing lawsuit against the church. Got to protect the church, right? Then the Philistines said, who hath done this? And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he had taken his wife and given her to his companion. That was actually the father who had done that. And the Philistines came up on the 14th of October, 2023, in the constellation of Virgo, the woman, the church, bride of Emmanuel, the Sun King. And burnt her and her father with fire over the state of Utah. The three solar eclipses over America form the Paleo-Hebrew letter A, the first letter of the alphabet. Alpha, in the shape of the A, where we get it from, in Paleo-Hebrew is turned. Sure enough, exactly as it appears over the United States of America. It's actually this way. And so, yes, the ancients who created the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, of which I deciphered, knew of this information, just as they knew whoever was the author of the book of Samson, story of Samson. Judges, by the way, is not the same as Danites. It's the different word for judges, in case you're wondering, or in case you thought that they were connected. No. And though ye have done this, Samson's now wanting revenge. You have killed my father, Inigo Montoya. Prepare to die. And he smote them hip and thigh with a great slaughter, and he went down and dwelt in the top of a rock, Etam, top of the mountain, Utah. Etam, that's Edom, isn't it? That's the same phonetics. Esau is Edom, top of the mountain, the rejected birthright blessing son. He got usurped. Utah. Tom is also perfect, complete, Urim and Thummim. And I'm willing to bet the E is the universal symbol of the sun. We can check. Judges 15, verse 8. Looks like Google's taking its time. Got the white screen of death. Come on. Judges 15, verse 11. Okay. And then Judah. Huh. Yeah, Utah. Etam. Utah. Utah. Huh. I use blueletterbible.org because I'm able to more quickly reference Paleo-Hebrew or Biblical Hebrew, and then I just convert it into Paleo-Hebrew. Well, yeah, this needs to be retranslated, that's for sure. And oh, it's not. But I was right. The E is the universal symbol of the sun, but it's the other. It's the other Exodus 28. Verse 30. Yeah, it's the other T. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, be more knowledge and information, light knowledge. That if we get to Zion, I can spend my time doing this rather than doing videos to warn you. And they answered, oh, wait a minute. Then the Philistines went up and pitched in Utah and spread themselves in Lehi. The men of Utah said, why are you come up against us? Why do you post videos against the Danite Church of Lucifer with the inverted pentagram on the keystone of our doors of the temple? And they answered, to bind Samson are we come up, to do to him as he hath done unto us. No, you were the first cause. Then 3,000 men of Utah, 3,000 Mormons, went up to Utah and said unto Emmanuel, Samson, knowest thou not that the Philistines are rulers over us? The prophets rule, not you. You drool. What is this thou hast done unto us? And he said unto them, as they did unto me, so I have done unto them. Yeah, bad people always ignore they are the first cause, so that they can justify. And they said unto him, we are come down to bind thee, that we may deliver thee into the hands of the Philistines. Samson said unto them, swear unto me that ye will not fall upon me yourselves. And they spake unto him, no, but we will bind thee fast and deliver you into their hand. But we promise we won't kill you, we'll just torture you and hold you hostage in bondage. And they bound him with cords, just like Nephi on the boat, and brought him unto the rock. That's what this love is. And when they came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, how shall we look when we are damned? Abinadi! The Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, the one mighty and strong. And the cords that were on his arm became as flax, and that was burnt with fire. And his bands loosed from off his hands. And he found a new jawbone, Lehi, of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. And Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps, with the jaw of an ass have I slain 1,000 men. Hold that thought. Interesting. It does not seem to be an eclipse that I recognize, because the eclipse that we have this year is in the woman. And then the next one is the final one where he dies, 8 April 2024, and that is not in a jawbone, which is interesting. And so I'd have to check the others that have been going on previously to see if I can find if it was put out of order. Because there was one in October 25th, 2022, April 30th, 2022, December 4th, 2021, June 10th, 2021. That was our tetrad, but because one of them was a partial, the one on April 30th, they aren't. And October 25th also. Yeah, annular and total were the first two, and then partials for the second two. That's why it wasn't announced in the news as such. Only I was the one telling you of its significance. And then we have December 14th, 2020, June 21st, 2020, December 26th, 2029, July 2nd, 2029, or 2019. 2019 is not 2029. January 6th, 2019, August 11th, 2018, July 13th, 2018, February 15th, 2018, August 21st, 2017. And then there was one on February 26th, 2017, and then September 1st, 2016. And then the September 13th is a part of the tetrad in 2014, 2015, and there was also another one on March 6, 2016. So I'd have to check my Urim and Thummim to see which one is at a jawbone. And there's not really an ass in space, so I'd have to look for some other that would be considered a jawbone. So just understand that. That's what I was checking there. And Ramat Lehi. So he does do the Genesis pattern for that one after using the jawbone to slay 1,000 Mormons. And he was sore of thirst. He called upon the Lord and said, Thou hast given this great deliverance into the hand of thy servant, and now shall I die for thirst in the desert? That's the heat spell, the drought that they're prophesying here for us. Not really thirsty. He's prepared with extra water bottles and fall into the hand of uncircumcised Danites. Do they not do that anymore in the hospitals here in Utah? But God clave and hollow place that was in the jaw, and there came water out, just like Moses striking the rock and water comes out. And when he had drunk, his spirit came again, and he was revived. And he called the name thereof En-Hakkore, which is in Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel in his days of the Philistines 20 years. That's symbolic 20. And so that technically is the end of the story. And so, yeah, that would be 8 April 2024, that 1,000 deaths there. That seems to be what it would be. And so the second part that is attached to this, as being also from Samson, is actually going to be more specific about 8 April 2024. But I still can't figure out, because it's in Pisces. It's not, it's on the back of the Pegasus, and above, on the back at the tail of Cetus, the serpent, or the water dragon. Huh, it is confusing. There must be a previous constellation in that area that may have been a jawbone of an animal. I'd have to refer to those original star charts to see if that was the case. Because I know there is other, features. For example, Sirius, the dog star, that the three wise men point to, which, yes, he's born in the year of the dog in China. But above that, we don't have a constellation. But the Egyptians had Isis, Horus's mother. So the dog star was Horus, thus born in the year of the dog, from the prophecy of the Chinese, and his mother was on top. And so that's why you see Revelation chapter 12's sign of the birth with the woman standing on the moon, the religion. It's that same concept. Isis is standing on her son that she had given birth to. But here, Jupiter is born at the star Spica of Bethlehem, house of bread, for that situation. So, yeah, there's things I see because I know the subject matter, and it would be higher level learning for you that I'm only touching on, and you're confused. And so again, here we have a whore that he gets married to. Then went Samson to Gaza, and saw there an harlot, and went in unto her. And a harlot is a woman who sleeps around with different men, but isn't a whore in the sense that she's had a child. That's the difference. Because words get thrown around and it all seems to be the same, but the ancients had distinctive definitions for each of them. So, for example, when it talks about Samson's mother, she's called a woman. Well, it's because she's had children. That's what they mean by woman. But they say that even though she's a woman, she hasn't had kids, so thus she's a virgin. But she's married. So yeah, there's some weirdness by the authors, but that's their cultural understanding of the words that they're using. God. And it was told to the Gazites, saying, Samson is come hither. And they compassed him in, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and were quiet all night, saying, in the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him. Yep, Mormons kept trying to kill him. They're Christ. They want Jesus, the unreal Christ, rather than the real Christ. This is weird. Why are Mormons so insistent that their Christ not be real? That they refuse to accept the reality of a real Christ? Weird. And Samson lay till midnight. The 10 virgins around midnight. Thief in the night. and rose at midnight and took the doors of the gate of the city and 2 posts and went away with them, bar and all, put them on his shoulders. The doors of the Salt Lake Temple with the inverted pentagram on them, and carried them to the top of a hill, Utah. And it came to pass, hill in Paleo-Hebrew is Hor, which is a literal transliteration from Egyptian as Horus. And so here we have Heber with the N at the end for kingdom. The kingdom of Heber. Hebrew. Heber. Hebron. And it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Lilith is the first wife of Adam. That's her name, actually. There was no Eve. The author put in Eve because he didn't like the idea of Lilith, which was already in the Talmud as an evil demon spiritess. And then in 600, it was... I wonder if the Dead Sea Scrolls would have had Eve or if it's just the woman. Because I did check, but they only had the beginning. He doesn't show the other texts. But that would be an interesting one to check to see if Eve was put in at the Essene period time of the Dead Sea Scrolls. But first Genesis chapter 1, the separation of the heavens and the earth and the dry land appearing, that's the Heliopolis creation glyph. The sky, night, is Nut of the Egyptians, and that is Lilith in Hebrew. And so Delilah is the Greek form of Lilith. I learned that as there's a Dacia here in Utah, and I checked the Scott and Liddell's English-Greek lexicon, and checked, and yeah, it's the same as Esau, but with the D in front, it feminizes it, as the D is the delta symbol, which is not only the upward part of the Star of David, the double D's, but is also a pyramid for the mound of Horus that rises up between the waters. He's the child that comes through on dry ground with the Ark of the Covenant, with the circumcised, the crown, and yet it's also breast. And so here in Greek we learn that they use the D at the beginning of a name to feminize the name. From the Hebrew, which is just Lilith. So Delilah and Lilith is the same. That's Adam's first wife, or Earth's life, which was Geb, from the Egyptian document of Heliopolis creation glyph. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and said unto her, Entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth. See, now it's his strength that they're focused on, the one mighty and strong. Whereas before, it was, guess the riddle, and I'll give you 30 pieces of silver. The sheets and the linen and whatever. But now it's his strength. They want to strip him of his power. They want to know the name. And so it's changed here as to what's going on with a different story. That let God prevail. It's not in Israel. It's Prince of God. That we may bind him to Jesus. Dear God, they prophesied this. Are you listening, Nelson? Somebody has to listen this long. But yeah, Nelson pulled the stunt of let God prevail for the meaning of Israel and changed the doctrine from the Bible that we now bind ourselves to Jesus. Dear God. Yoke was technically the word, but God. And here's 1,100 pieces of silver. The betrayal money. So yeah, it's not 30 pieces of silver in this case. But you see what they're doing here? And so 11 is interesting, because that's 9/11. That's the day that shall burn as an oven. It's interesting. But I don't see a 9. However, I could check the Hebrew, and I might find the 9. Let's see, and Delilah said to Samson, tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth. Thy strength, great strength lieth. And wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. Oh, married to another winner of a woman. Tell me how to kill you. Oh, okay. Well, you see. Good. Samson said unto her, if thou bind me with 7 green withs that have never dried, then shall I be weak, and be as another man. Bleep you, I'm not telling you how I'm gonna die. And so, yeah, they go and do it. She narcs on him. And so, yeah, they're lying in wait. So that's what I'm waiting for. I'm expecting them to be lying in wait. But, as it's the day that shall burn as an oven this year, in just a couple of months, are they no longer lying in wait? Are they just hoping that they can get away with it until then? So, God. And she said unto the Philistines been unto Samson, if he break the withs, and touch when it touches the fire. So his strength was not known. Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me. Really? You're victim blaming him? And told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. He said unto her, he was just using the safe word, if they bind me fast with new ropes that never were occupied, then I shall be weak. Took the new ropes, bound them, said unto him, Philistines be unto thee, Samson. And there were liars in wait, abiding in the chamber. And he brake them from off of his arms like a thread. Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Mormons. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, I'll post this video tomorrow. If thou weavest the 7 locks of thy head with the web, the World Wide Web. And she fastened it with a pin and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee. So yeah, he betrayed her 3 times. Samson woke out of his deep sleep and went away, the pin of the beam, and with the web. And she said, how canst thou say I love thee, if you won't let me kill you? When Thy heart is not with me. Oh, go bleep yourself. Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and thou hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth. It came to pass that when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him so that his soul was vexed unto death, he told her all his heart. And she said unto the Christ, Emmanuel, Jesus is Lord. Jesus is the Christ. There has not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. Also, when his hair was long, that's when he got revelation for Zion. Got the keys through the Spirit, even though he demonstrated that he had the gift, having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew already. And I shall become weak. And when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the Lord of the Philistines. Come up this once. The girl who cried wolf. For he hath showed me all his heart. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and brought money in their hand. And she made him sleep upon her knees. She called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. The Philistines be unto thee, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep and said, I will go out as other times before, and shake myself. And he wits not that the Lord had departed from him. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. But the Philistines took him, put out his eyes, and brought him to Gaza, and bound him with fetters of brass. Yeah, he will be imprisoned. He did grind in the prison house. Isn't it grinding? Howbeit the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. The Lord of the Philistines gathered them together. I do need a haircut. Even though you may look at me and go, you don't need a haircut. I do need a haircut. Offer up a great sacrifice unto Dagon, their god. That's the fish god. Yep. The dragon beast, or the goat beast, Dagon, Capricorn. Lucifer. For they said, Our God hath delivered Samson from our enemy into our hand. Our God's better than your God, 'cause we are richer and stronger. That's how Mormons say it. Church is wealthy and larger in number than the other branch-offs of Joseph Smith, so therefore it must be the true church, even though the Book of Mormon says, no, that makes you the church of Lucifer. Mormons just don't bother to believe in their Book of Mormon. And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, Our God hath delivered into our hands our enemy, and the destroyer of our country, which slew many of us. Yeah, and they blame him for what they caused. And Dorothy Murdoch, if you're familiar with her, she was one of the contemporaries that was doing research on the scriptures showing that they came from the Egyptian documents. Her focus was mostly on the New Testament. She did do a book on Moses, but she focused on the New Testament. Gary Greenberg had done his 101 Myths of the Bible, which focused on Genesis for the most part. And then there was me, who had deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, was now working on deciphering Egyptian and the language of the Egyptian, learning of the Egyptians, language of the Egyptians, not the learning of the Greeks, language of the Egyptians, of the Rosetta Stone. And and so I had made some discoveries with the Old Testament as well. But now that Dorothy Murdoch is dead, I'm the guy now. That's it. That's just me. But she died on Christmas, and so Christians all believe that therefore Jesus smote her down, and that she should not be listened to, that her research has no merit because she died on Christmas. That's what you're seeing here in the text. That if Mormons were to successfully murder their Christ, they would say Jesus is true, therefore, and the church is true. That's how corrupt Mormons are. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport, and they sat him between the pillars. Bruce R. McConkie says building in the chapter heading. This is the temple. They were built with the pillars. Because you're thinking of the Roman period time, and there were lots of Greek temples that were still up, and Rome likewise either culturally appropriated them or built their own pillared temples to their specifically renamed deities. But that's the temple of the great and abominable church. That's the whole symbolism of all this. The fall of the great and abominable church. On 8 April 2024. And I hope it doesn't take that long, because the sign this year is over Utah, in Virgo, the church. It's the year that shall burn as an oven, which is September 11th, because Joseph Smith 2 times 4, 2 sets of 4. And so even though it's September 22nd, he's indicating that there are 2 sets of 4 9/11s. And yes, there have been. For the church, the great and abominable church, and for the government. And that's why I was wondering about a 9 in the previous verse, where they show 11,000 was the betrayal price to Delilah. And so, suffer me that I may fill the pillars. See, we're looking at a solar eclipse here for this final death. He's blinded, that I may lean upon them. So in Sodom and Gomorrah, when the men are blinded by the light of the messengers, yeah, Emmanuel, sun god, blinded by a solar eclipse, the sun. You have to wear protective glasses. But that's the 3 days of darkness that they're referring to in Sodom and Gomorrah, which is comparable to the Exodus account of 3 days of darkness. 3 hours and 3 days in the gospel stories with that Jesus guy, who should be Emmanuel. Now the house temple was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines, all the prophets. This is the whole church gathered together to destroy Samson. And that's what I think the church is planning on doing here, is that they're not lying in wait anymore. Their intention of putting me in the shelter was the prison. And I got out, and yeah, there was the Fox solar eclipse that was associated with it, but now we're going to have another eclipse over Utah in Virgo, and then it's the day that shall burn as an oven. And so September 11th with the 22nd of September is the day that shall burn as an oven that Joseph Smith is warning about. Then you have the sign in the heavens of the 14th of October, just a month after. And that's within the time frame, because of the death of the presidents of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as I have done that video for you. All of them correspond with both solar and lunar eclipses and stars falling from heaven. And that's what we're waiting for, is the fall of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the great and abominable church. And that's what the symbols are telling us this year. That's what Joseph is warning this year. And it's such that Utah will be forced to leave the destruction of Utah. And thus, 2nd Nephi, I think I said 3rd Nephi in the other video, and I was about to say it here too. 2nd Nephi chapter 1, I got my answer, is that Mormons, they're not hearkening to me. That's very clear. You're not even listening to this far into the video. And so I'm just talking to myself. This is a history that I'm keeping for the records that people can look up in Zion. But God. But yeah, that's the whole point, is that the survivors are going to know to go east. Mormons are going to go, oh, Utah's destroyed. Wow, I guess that means we go to Missouri? And in the process of going to Missouri, I'm saying, no, we need to keep going to southern Utah. What are you talking about, Travis? Well, you see, there was this guy named Joseph Smith. Yeah. He's the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. No. No. But Mormons, with the destruction of the church, they can't use that argument that the Philistines used. Our God's better than your God because we conquered you. Mormons will be conquered. The Mormon Jesus had failed to save Mormons. And so Mormons will be humiliated and humbled and shamed. And so they're ripe for reteaching them as Alma and Amulek did to the poor Zoramites. And that's when they'll say, okay, I guess we'll trust you. We have nobody else to trust. If you're the last person on earth, wait a minute, no, not if you're the last person on earth. We still won't marry you. So, yeah, that's what's going on there. And there were upon the roof about 3, that's because that's bathing and all that happens on the roof. And that beheld while Samson made sport. And Samson called unto the Lord, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, Shazam! That was, the latest one was awesome. Not just because of Wonder Woman's appearance. I pray thee this once, be avenged of the Philistines for my eyes. Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars, upon which the house stood, and upon which it was borne up, of the one with his right hand, the other with his left. Let me die with the Philistines. So yes, the death of the Philistines is the solar eclipse on the back of the white horse in Pisces, and Samson's death, he's Jupiter in the Ram-Lamb constellation, the wedding supper marriage feast of the Lamb at the temple in Zion, Revelation 19, Doctrine and Covenants 58. He bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. I thought they were on the roof. And so the dead that he slew at his death were more than they slew at his life. The great and abominable church fell. Everybody was gathered to the temple. Fell. So that's not how it's going to happen. Nelson's not going to have a great big thing in the Salt Lake Temple, per se. It better not be. That would be April 6th. Oh, if he waits that long, don't you dare. But that's what the church was originally planning. That's why they had designated way back when to start the renovation on the Salt Lake Temple after receiving the money from Russia as a compromise for the temple in Russia, which we have yet to see, because Russia used that money, the tithing, to declare war on Ukraine and attack the United States of America, and also with the help of the church with the secret combination. So, yeah. And so he doesn't die, but like Jesus, the sign of his death in 3rd Nephi, Samuel the Lamanite. Samuel is name of God. And so there's a hilarious part in the Book of Mormon where Jesus, Emmanuel, comes to Nephi, Emmanuel, and says, where are the records of Samuel, the name of God, Emmanuel? Hilarious! And he's talking about the latter days. All of it occurred 8 April 2024. That's the sign in the heavens that they were all marveling about, the sign of his death. That's right there. And Major League Baseball is having opening day on that day as well. Assuming that there's an America left. And it'll be interesting because now that Hollywood is shut down, I would hope that Hollywood production companies, in wanting to continue to make money, will start producing DVDs of the TV series, especially Disney, that have not been producing TV series. But the only way for me to obtain them is if there is no day that shall burn as an oven. And so, I don't know, maybe Micah? There's a Micah in Judges too. Whoa. There's the book of Micah. I just did the video series, and here's another Micah in chapter 17. Micah has a house of gods and consecrates his own priests. Hilarious. Peace. So anyway, then his brethren and all the house of his father came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtolah in the burying place of Manoah his father. And he judged Israel 20 years. Well, so, very interesting. Alrighty, so that's that for that. But you see how it's a prophecy? How using Joseph Smith's decoder ring in section 103 helps us interpret the prophecy. If you didn't want to watch that video, you're going to have to watch it in Zion, which means you're going to have to live. And the only way you're going to live is if you hearken to me. And if you were hearkening to me, you're listening to this video. It's kind of a conundrum there, isn't it?